It's Governor Chris Christie out on the campaign trail, and he has seen his numbers rise dramatically in the state of New Hampshire. He's third in one poll, following Trump, 21%. This is the ARG poll. Rubio, 15, Christie, 12. And in a second New Hampshire poll, the CBS poll, Trump has 32, Cruz 14, and Christie 11. And what do you make? I know you've spent a lot of time in New Hampshire, but you've certainly put a lot of time and attention in there. Are you ignoring Iowa?
No, not at all. In fact, I was in Iowa for 3 days, Sean, before New Year's, and I'm going to be back to Iowa right after the debate next week. So we're putting a lot of time into Iowa as well. We think we're going to do well in Iowa. We're going to do very well in New Hampshire.
Let's talk about the president today. Did you see the president's emotional speech? And I think this was like the third time he finally mentioned the violence in Chicago, and he tears well up in his eyes, and he makes this emotional speech, and he wants to use executive action. What's your reaction to the president?
Well, listen, I've said this before. The president is a petulant child. He lost the House of Representatives because of his policies. He lost the United States Senate because of his policies. And now, since he can't get anything that he wants in his really liberal agenda through Congress, now he's going to try to continue to use, as he's done in immigration and other areas, his executive power to do it. I think it's the wrong way to govern. I think it's not constitutional. And ultimately, I think the things that he does will not be held up as being legal. But it's not surprising from this president. He's done it over and over again. Let's
talk about, now, New Jersey has very restrictive gun laws. Let's talk about New Jersey gun laws. For example, it's very difficult to get a carry permit in New Jersey.
Yes, sir.
Why?
Because many years ago, Democratic governors and the Democratic legislature passed the state being a may-issue state rather than a shall-issue state. Now, what a commission I put together has recently done is to expand the definition under which you could get a carry permit in New Jersey. It used to be just for a specific threat. You had to have a specific threat to get a carry permit. We've broadened that significantly. The Attorney General is now, this commission has recommended it. I've adopted those recommendations, and the Attorney General is now working through that to make it easier. But unless we get a Republican legislature in New Jersey, Sean, you're never going to see us change from a may-issue state to a shall-issue state, which is one of the big differences.
Well, let's talk about what, if you had your way, what would the laws in New Jersey be?
It would be a shall-issue state.
But in other words, what would that mean that any law-abiding citizen would be able to get a pistol carry permit, for example?
Correct.
Like, for example, I have one in New York City. Do you know how hard it was for me to get this?
Oh, yeah.
And I've had it for like 15 years. And, I've had many threats over the years. And I've spoken candidly about it on the program. I thought Donald Trump's line to Hillary Clinton, if, you think guns are so dangerous, then maybe you should, and such a problem and that they're not effective, then disarm your own bodyguards. Every politician I know has armed bodyguards.
Yes, it's a very good point. And, my view on this is that we should stop spending so much time on law-abiding citizens and start spending more time on taking criminals off the streets. I think that the fact that it's the first time the president has mentioned the violence in Chicago is disgraceful. It's his home city. Yet we know that the murders are up 18% in Chicago. They're up 11% in New York City. What I did as a federal prosecutor was to spend a lot of time on gun cases at the federal level. And we were able to put away felons who were committing crimes with handguns. We were able to put them away at record levels because of the leadership of U.S. attorneys, Attorney General Ashcroft, and the direction we got from President Bush. And it made streets much safer during the Bush years than they've been during the Obama years.
You know what the most amazing contradiction or paradox here is? You know who the greatest gun salesman in American history is?
Who's that?
President Obama.
He is. He really is. It's amazing. And you're going to continue to see that happen. And you feel it across the country, not only, Sean, because of what he's saying about gun control, but also because no one has faith anymore that the federal government can protect us. Our national security, our homeland security is at great risk. People feel at risk and feel as if they need to protect themselves. The Los Angeles School District closed down because of an email threat. The school district here in Nashua, New Hampshire closed down because of an email threat. That stuff did not happen in the previous administration because folks believed that the federal government was doing their job and keeping us safe. They do not believe that any longer.
Let's talk about the president, not being so lawless so often. I actually blame Republicans for this, and let me tell you why. when the president said 25 times he didn't have the authority to use executive action on immigration and then decided to do it anyway, and Republicans didn't stop him in Washington, well, that kind of set the stage for the president to once again act on his own and bypass, co-equal branches of the government, separation of powers, the Constitution, the rule of law, and to move forward with these actions. What would you advise the Republicans to do now?
Well, they should be opposing him before. They should have opposed him before. They should oppose him now. This is not the kind of thing that if you are a co-equal branch of government, which the Congress is, that they should be permitting to happen. I could tell you that if I tried to do that in New Jersey with my Democratic legislature, they would be opposing me tooth and nail in the courts and every place else they could oppose me. And we just have not done that as a party. But this is not unusual, Sean. This Congress has not lived up to its billing. Their bark has been much, much worse than their bite. And that's why people are so angry and frustrated across the country, is it's those people out in the country who put the Republicans in charge of the House in 2010, put them in charge of the Senate in 2014, and these folks have not delivered.
You made a speech yesterday where you laid out the case that, you've called the president a petulant child. I think he is rather petulant and arrogant, and I think he's been emboldened by Republican weakness. But you say these challenging times demand a grown-up. I argue that it's not a time for half measures. On the economy, we've robbed our kids blind. Our borders are wide open. On energy, we've been too dependent for far too long on foreign countries. We haven't had the courage to repeal and replace Obamacare. We're robbing our kids blind. And I worry about its future. And I'm not even talking about America losing its influence around the world. I mean, America led for so many years, and in our absence, look at what's happening.
Well, it's true, Sean. I mean, back in 2014, I was campaigning for Governor Rick Scott in Florida. An 82-year-old woman stopped me on the rope line, and she asked me a question. She said, "Governor, what's happened to our country? We used to control events. Now events control us." And I thought it was one of the most profound things that anyone has said about what America has looked like, both domestically and around the world during the Obama administration. And what I meant in that speech by saying we need a grown-up was we need someone who is actually mature and tested and ready and knows how to govern. And, fact is, that's what I've been doing now for 6 years as governor of New Jersey, and for 7 years before that as U.S. attorney, having to make executive decisions of consequence that affected people's lives. And I've been doing them, being held accountable for them, and we've had great success. And so that's what I mean. We need a grown-up, and we also need a grown-up, by the way, to stand across the stage from Hillary Clinton. We need someone who's going to be able to take her on head-to-head directly and understand.
What is the best way to take her on? Because Donald Trump, recently, he was accused of being sexist by Hillary, and he fought back and said, no, Hillary's an enabler to Bill, who abused a lot of women. What is your reaction? Should that be part of the focus? Is that fair game?
Listen, I think in today's politics, Sean, anything is fair game. It wouldn't be my focus because I think that the American people have litigated how they feel about President Clinton and his personal conduct and his personal life. And I don't think we get anywhere as Republicans by doing that. I think there is plenty to talk about in Hillary Clinton's abject failure as Secretary of State, her mediocre record as a United States Senator. What has she ever accomplished in her life? What has she done that's ever been successful? And the fact is that that's the kind of argument I think we want to have on the policies that she's going to pursue. Well,
let me ask you, because
leave, higher Social Security taxes. I mean, those are the things we should be fighting her on, and I don't think we should be litigating, Bill Clinton's personal
Well, if she's going to play,
people have judged that.
I think if she's going to play that card, that words of a candidate are sexist, then I think it's somewhat fair game to talk about real charges of abuse. And more importantly, I mean, the Clinton Foundation took so much money from so many countries like Saudi Arabia that have atrocious human rights records as it relates to women.
That's a different issue. I mean, that's a different issue, Sean. You're talking about the money that the Clinton Foundation has taken from countries like Saudi Arabia and others. That's absolutely fair game. And by the way, so is the president's personal conduct. But you asked me, do I think that's the most effective way for us to go after Hillary Clinton? I do not. I think the most effective way to go after her on the Clinton Foundation. Because remember, she said before Congress, she will go out of her way to make sure they avoid conflicts of interest. Yet we know that they took hundreds of millions of dollars over time from countries that had business in front of the State Department that Hillary Clinton was running. I mean, that just shows that there is a lawlessness in her in the same way there's a lawlessness in Barack Obama. And we have seen 7 years of a senator who's lawless in the White House. We don't need that replayed once again for the next 4 years.
Let's talk about the law. We now know that we had this New Year's Eve dump, another 275 classified emails discovered, which raises that total to 1,274. And the State Department, by the way, talks a lot about certain emails that are born classified. Her original comment was she never sent or received any classified information. That turned out to be false. The FBI director is looking into it. As you look at the law, what do you think? Rudy Giuliani has identified, some 16 laws that he believes should be investigated that may have been broken.
Listen, I think she's got a big problem on her hands, and I've been saying this for a long time. I think that she's got a big problem on her hands from a number of different perspectives. One, potential obstruction of justice. When were these servers wiped in relation to when subpoenas were served by Congress? And I think she's also got a problem with the mishandling of classified information. And if David Petraeus was going to be convicted of this, and Sandy Berger and her husband's administration was convicted of this is something that Hillary Clinton's got a real problem with, and I think so do members of her staff.
If you were to run against Hillary Clinton, would you carry the state of New Jersey? Would you compete in the state of New York?
I would compete in the state of New Jersey, and I would compete in the state of New York. If I'm running against Hillary Clinton, I don't know if I'd win them or not, Sean. They're traditionally pretty blue states. But let's remember something. I won 61% of the vote for re-election for governor of New Jersey in 2013. 61% of the vote in the same state that Barack Obama had won 58% of the vote 1 year earlier. And so, yeah, we'd make Hillary Clinton compete in New Jersey and in New York. She'd be spending money there that she will not spend if any other candidate in the Republican Party is nominated against her.
What are the first 100 days, if you win, what would they look like in terms of the economy and on national security?
On national security, first thing, we divided it to national and homeland security. On homeland security, restore the NSA metadata program, hire more FBI agents and more folks in the intelligence community so that we have the sufficient capability to connect the dots and to intervene in plots before Americans are killed. Secondly, I would invite the leaders of all of our allied countries, one at a time, Mexico, Canada, Great Britain, Germany, France, and Israel, one at a time to come over and meet with me one-on-one. Let them vent about the ways they've been mistreated and lied to over the last 8 years by this administration, and then have them set out for me what their vision is for the relationship with America and what we need to do in the world so that we begin to build a coalition to fight terrorism, ISIS, and a reconstituting al-Qaeda around the world. I would send a tax bill immediately to the United States Congress, asking them to eliminate all special interest loopholes and deductions except for the home mortgage interest deduction and the charitable contribution deduction, and to lower rates to where they were and in some instances below where they were in the Reagan era. That would all happen in the first 100 days. And by the way, on day one, I would revoke every one of the illegal and unconstitutional executive orders this president has signed.
How well do you think you have to do in New Hampshire for you to be viable in this race?
I think I have to do well in New Hampshire, Sean. I don't know what place I'd have to be in yet. I think we'll get a much better handle on that in the next couple of weeks as the race kind of solidifies as we move into the last 3 weeks or so. But I need to do very well here. I've spent a lot of time here. I've invested a lot of time here. And I expect to do well here. And, you can tell people are attacking me from all sides now here. And so, that means I am doing very well. So we feel very good about where we are. We're attracting great crowds here. And we're actually interacting with people. We're not standing up and just giving speeches. We've now taken in Iowa and New Hampshire in 62 town hall meetings. We've taken nearly 750 questions from voters.
That's it. I wish Hillary would do that. All right, but I got to roll.
Absolutely.
We'll see you on Hannity coming up this week. We appreciate it. Thank you so much, Governor Chris Christie. We're now less than 4 weeks away from the Iowa caucuses as the